Welcome to The Explainer. So today we are diving deep into something fascinating, the powerful and, let's be honest, often hidden allure of conspiracy theories. You've heard it a million times, right? From historic assassinations to global pandemics, who was really behind it? It's a question that hints the official story. Well, it's just that, a story. And then there's this one. Was it all a hoax? This kind of doubt can be aimed at literally anything, even something as huge as the moon landing. The idea is simple. We've all been tricked. And that leads us to the big one. What are they hiding? Because really, at the heart of every single one of these theories, from the kind of plausible to the totally out there, is this one core belief. Some powerful group is hiding a secret from the rest of us. But look, the real question here isn't whether any of these stories are true. The real question is, why are they so darn compelling? So that's what we're going to do. We're not here to debunk anything. Instead, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the psychological blueprint that makes these stories just so irresistible. All right, first up, why our brains believe. And it turns out our attraction to these kinds of stories, it's not really about logic or spreadsheets full of evidence. Nope, it's about fulfilling some really deep, fundamental human needs. Okay, so there's this thing called uncertainty management theory. It basically says that when the world feels chaotic, random and kind of scary, a conspiracy theory is like a warm blanket. It takes all that randomness and swaps it out for a simple story with clear villains and a hidden plan. All of a sudden, a complicated world starts to feel like it makes a bit more sense. And this is a perfect map of that emotional journey. So you start with some big, random event, a pandemic, a financial crisis, and that brings on anxiety and confusion, right? Well, the conspiracy theory swoops in as this simple story, this neat little package, and the result? You get this feeling of control. Even if, and this is the key part, even if that feeling is totally built on a fiction. Yeah, exactly. As the quote says, belief is often not a rational choice, but an emotional regulation mechanism. So the bottom line is that these stories are serving a real purpose. They're a tool our brains use to handle tough emotions like fear and uncertainty. It's less about figuring out the world and way more about feeling better about our place in it. And it goes even deeper than that, because it's not just about what's going on in our own heads. Social identity theory tells us that believing is also about belonging. Think about it. Sharing a secret truth creates this incredibly powerful bond. It builds a community of insiders, people who get it, who see the world the right way. It creates a very clear us versus them. Okay, so that leads us to the next big piece of the puzzle, the anatomy of a conspiracy. How does this all fit together? Because these theories, they're not just a random jumble of ideas. They actually follow a surprisingly clear structure, almost like a blueprint with different levels. And a scholar named Michael Barkun came up with a really useful way to classify them. His framework is basically a toolkit that helps you understand pretty much any conspiracy theory you might stumble upon, from the really small ones to the absolutely massive world-spanning ones. This breaks it down perfectly. On one side, you've got your event theories. These are super focused on one single, well-defined event. The moon landing was faked. Simple. Then, on the other side, you have systemic theories. These are the ones that zoom way out and say, hey, a secret group like the Illuminati is secretly running all of global finance. It's a whole different scale. So you can really see how these things build on each other. You start with the foundation. Event theories, focused on one thing, like JFK or 9/11. Then you build up to systemic theories, which claim there's this broad control, like chemtrails. But then you get to the top floor, the super conspiracies. These are the granddaddies of them all. They link everything, event theories, systemic theories, all of it, into one giant master plot, like the New World Order. Okay, so we've got the psychology and the structure down. But you might be thinking this is all about big, heavy politics. Well, it's not. This same blueprint shows up everywhere, from pop culture to politics. And, as we're about to see, the internet has acted like a massive catalyst for all of it. Just check this one out. The theory that the singer Avril Lavigne actually died and was replaced by a body double named Melissa. This thing is wildly persistent. It kicked off on a Brazilian fan blog and then, years later, just blew up on social media, with people pointing to evidence like how her handwriting changed or her fashion sense evolved. But here's the crazy part. If you look at the blueprint, it's identical to the big political theories. You've got An anomaly, her appearance changed. You've got a powerful secret actor, the record company, and you've got a hidden truth that only the in the know people can see. It just goes to show this pattern, this way of thinking, can be slapped onto literally anything. And here's why that matters. These seemingly fun, harmless theories can act as a kind of gateway drug. They're like a training ground. They get our brains comfortable with accepting stories that don't have a lot of solid evidence. And once you're comfortable with that logic, it becomes way easier to accept bigger and sometimes much more dangerous political conspiracies later on. And of course, social media just pours gasoline on this whole fire. I mean, look at this. An analysis of tweets around the hashtag Plandemic hashtag found that almost 60% of them were just retweets. What does that do? It creates this massive digital echo chamber. It takes one person's belief, amplifies it 1,000 times, and transforms it from a personal idea into a powerful shared group identity. Okay, so what? Why does any of this actually matter? Well, it matters because these theories are not just harmless fun. They're not just intellectual puzzles. They have real, tangible, and often really damaging effects on all of us.
First, irrationality. They just erode our ability to think critically. That's what they do. They're designed to make us accept illogical stories as fact, and that blurs the line between what's real and what's just made up.
Second, distrust. They are built to systematically tear down trust in our institutions. The whole point is that science, government, the media, they're all lying to you. And over time, that creates this really deep, corrosive distrust of everything. And what happens when you don't trust anyone? You get hopelessness. I mean, if you believe some all-powerful secret group controls literally everything, then what's the point? Why bother trying to make a difference? It just leads to people checking out completely. And finally, number 4, normalization. When you mix all that together, this constant feeling of crisis, the distrust, the hopelessness, you start to normalize things that used to be seen as extreme. In a world where anything seems possible and you can't trust anyone, radical ideas and actions can start to look, well, perfectly acceptable, maybe even necessary. So that leaves us with a really big question. When everything is a conspiracy, what happens to the truth? Because at the end of the day, the real danger here isn't one specific theory. It's the world that this mindset creates. A world where objective truth feels like it's just gone. But by understanding this blueprint, by seeing why these stories are so powerful, maybe we can shift the conversation. We can move from just asking if a story is true to understanding why it's being told in the first place. And that's a much more powerful place to be.